Hey, darlings! Squirrel Squad, Chapter 19, Roses. I'm probably gonna only read 15 minutes, so I can. I'm recording on my phone. Don't have much memory, so maybe it'll go up. I could use my Chromebook. I forgot to bring it in here. Chapter 19 is called White Roses. Get off, bookmark. God. Oh well. While the travelers refreshed and Mrs. President struggled into her best gown, Josie ran into the garden to gather flowers for the brides. The sudden arrival of these interesting beings had quite enchanted the romantic girl, and her head was full of heroic rescues, tender admiration, dramatic situations, and feminine wonder as to whether the lovely creatures would wear their veils or not. She was standing before a great bush of white roses, culling the most perfect. Okay. For the bouquets which she meant to tie with the ribbon festooned over her arm and lay on the toilette tables of the new cousins as a delicate attention. A step startled her, and looking up, she saw her brother coming down the path with folded arms, head bent, and the absent air of one absorbed in deep thought. "Sorry, Sophie Wackles," said the sharp child with a superior smile as she sucked her thumb, just pricked by a too eager pull at the thorny branches. What are you at here, mischief?" asked Demi with an Irving-esque start, as he felt rather than saw a disturbing influence in his daydream. "Getting flowers for our brides. Don't you wish you had one?" answered Josie, to whom the word mischief suggested her favorite amusement. "A bride or a flower?" asked Demi calmly, though he eyed the blooming bush as if it had a sudden and unusual interest for him. "Both. You get the one, and I'll give you the other." "I wish I could," said Demi, picked a little bud with a sigh, then that went to Josie's warm heart. "Why don't you then? It's lovely to see people so happy. Now's a good time to do it if you ever mean to. She'll be going away forever soon." "Who?" said Demi, pulled a half-open bud with a sudden color in his own face, which sign of confusion delighted little Joe. "Don't be a hypocrite. You know I mean Alice. Now, Jack, I'm fond of you and want to help. It's so interesting, all these lovers and weddings and things, and we ought to have our share, so you take my advice and speak up like a man and make sure of Alice before she goes." Demi laughed at the seriousness of the small girl's advice, but he liked it and showed that it suited him by saying blandly, instead of snubbing her as usual, "You are very kind, child. Since you are so wise, could you give me a hint how I'd better speak up, as you so elegantly express it?" "Oh, well, there are various ways, you know. In plays, the lovers go down on their knees, but that's awkward when they have long legs. Ted never does it well, though I drill him for hours. You could say, 'Be mine,' like the old man who threw cucumbers over the wall to Mrs. Nickleby, if you want to be gay and easy. Or you could write a poetical pop. You've tried it, I dare say. But seriously, Joe, I do love Alice, and I think she knows it. I want to tell her so, but I lose my head when I try, and don't care to make a fool of myself. Thought you might suggest some pretty way. You read so much poetry and are so romantic." Demi tried to express himself clearly, but forgot his dignity and his usual reserve in the sweet perplexity of his love, and asked his little sister to teach him how to put the question with a single word, which which a single word can answer. The arrival of his happy cousins had scattered all his wise plans and brave resolutions to wait still longer. The Christmas play had given him courage to hope, and the oration today had filled him with tender pride. But the sight of those blooming brides and beaming grooms was too much for him, and he panted to secure his Alice without an hour's delay. Daisy was his confidant in all things but this. A brotherly feeling of sympathy had kept him from telling her his hopes, because her own were forbidden. His mother was rather jealous of any girl he admired, but knowing that she liked Alice, he loved on and enjoyed his secret alone, meaning soon to tell her all about it. Now suddenly Josie and the rosebush seemed to suggest a speedy end to his tender perplexities, and he was moved to accept her aid as the netted lion did that of the mouse. "I think I'll write," he was slowly beginning after a pause during which both were trying to strike out a new and brilliant idea. "I've got it. Perfectly lovely. Just suit her, and you too, being a poet," cried Josie with a skip. "What is it? Don't be ridiculous, please," begged the bashful lover, eager but afraid of this sharp-tongued bit of womanhood. "I read in one of Miss Edgeworth's stories about a man who offers 3 roses to his lady, a bud, a half-blown, and a full-blown rose. I don't remember which she took, but it's a pretty way, and Alice knows about it because she was there when we read it. Here are all kinds. You've got the 2 buds. Pick the sweetest rose you can find, and I'll tie them up and put them in her room. She is coming to dress with Daisy, so I can do it nicely." Demi mused a moment with his eyes on the bridal bush, and a smile came over his face so unlike any it had ever worn before that Josie was touched, and looked away as if she had no right to see the dawn of the great passion which, while it lasts, makes a young man as happy as a god. "Do it," was all she said, and gathered a full-blown rose to finish his floral love message. Charmed to have a finger in this romantic pie, Josie tied a graceful bow of ribbon about the stems and finished her last nosegay with much content, while Demi wrote upon a card, "Dear Alice, you know what the flowers mean. Will you wear one or all tonight and make me still prouder, fonder, and happier than I am? Yours entirely, John." Offering this to his sister, he said in a tone that made her feel the deep importance of her mission, "I trust you, Joe. This means everything to me. No jokes, dear, if you love me." Josie's answer was a kiss that promised all things, and then she ran away to do her gentle spiriting like Ariel, leaving Demi to dream among the roses like Ferdinand. Mary and Ludmilla were charmed with their bouquets, and the giver had the delight of putting some of the flowers into the dark hair and the light as she played maid at the toilets of our brides, which consoled her for a disappointment in the matter of veils. No one helped Alice dress, for Daisy was in the next room with her mother, and not even their loving eyes saw the welcome which the little posy received, nor the tears and smiles and blushes that came and went as she read the note, and pondered what answer she should give. There was no doubt about the one she wished to give, but duty held her back, for at home there was an invalid mother and an old father. She was needed there. With all the help she could now bring by the requirements 4 years of faithful study had given her, love looked very sweet, and a home of her own with John, a little heaven on earth, but not yet. And she slowly laid away the full-blown rose as she sat before the mirror thinking over the great question of her life. Was it wise and kind to ask him to wait, to bind him by any promise, or even to put into words the love and honor she felt for him? No, it would be more generous to make the sacrifice alone and spare him the pain of hope deferred. He was young, he would forget, and she would do her duty better perhaps if no impatient lover waited for her. With eyes that saw but dimly and a hand that lingered on the stem she had stripped of thorns, she laid the half-blown flower by the rose and asked herself if even the little bud might be worn. It looked very poor and pale beside the others, yet being in the self-sacrificing mood which real love brings, she felt that even a small hope was too much to give, if she could not follow it up with more. As she sat looking sadly down on the symbols of an affection that grew dearer every moment, she listened half unconsciously to the murmur of voices in the adjoining room. Open windows, thin partitions, and the stillness of summer twilight made it impossible to help hearing, and in a few moments more she could not refrain, for they were talking of John. So nice of Ludmilla to bring us all bottles of real German cologne, just what we need after this tiring day. Be sure John has his, he likes it so. Yes, Mother, did you see him jump up when Alice ended her oration? He'd have gone to her if I hadn't held him back. I don't wonder he was pleased and proud. I spoilt my gloves clapping and quite forgot my dislike of seeing women on platforms. She was so earnest and unconscious and sweet. Unconscious? And sweet after the first moment. Has he said anything to you, dear? No, and I guess why. The kind boy thinks it would make me unhappy. It wouldn't, but I know his ways, so I'll wait and hope all will go well with him. And I will stop right there just because, like I said, I'm afraid if I read any more, it won't let me. They don't have to do it all again, and grrr, I hate that. Be sweet, don't be ugly on this dreary, rainy Thursday. It is here anyway. It's central North Kakalaki. But anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'm gonna try my best. I've been watching Granny Square videos. And I found a Granny Square baby blanket that I would love to do. And then that would let me learn the granny and just keep going and actually make something out of it. Because I don't want to make little squares and have to put them together. That does not appeal to Granny at all. See you later, loves. Bye-bye.